1, 2 Polizei, 3, 4 Grenadier, 5, 6 alte Keks, 7, 8 gute Nacht. 1, 2 Polizei, 3, 4 Grenadier, 5, 6 alte Keks, 7, 8 gute Nacht. 1, 2 Polizei, 3, 4 Grenadier, 5, 6 alte Keks, 7, 8 gute Nacht. 1, 2 Polizei, 3, 4 Grenadier, 5, 6 alte Keks, 7, 8 gute Nacht.
What is the importance of let's say the debate over where the proto-Indo-European homeland would be? Well, it would basically, it's really just a thing talking about where would the modern languages, where's the homeland, or where these modern languages would have came from, such as Tocharian, Germanic, Latin, Greek, all pretty much similar things, Balto-Slavic, the Balkan languages. Where is the origin point of these language groups, right? Where would they come from? What are they? Who are they from? What is that? Right? More or less. I think David Reich had suggested that the origin point of all these languages would have been from near the Pontic-Caspian steppe, from the Caucasus, implying that people from the Caucasus would have came from the Caucasus and would have spread the Indo-European languages. So corded ware would be derived from that. They would have given rise to basically all the languages that we have today. That's the origin point of them. But this is incorrect based off of a few things, that Y DNA and the patchy locality of Yamnaya and these Indo-European people, and their Y lineage is predominantly R1b, I2 on the steppes, and there is no way that that R1b in that time frame at least would have been from the Caucasus. It's an EHG source, which, well, is from Seidel. A good indication of where this is from is Seidel Kino, an EHG who's in Russia. So what we can say is that these people, these EHGs people, would have been heavily in the Eastern European side of things, basically. Would have been from the Caucasus. So that cannot be the homeland or the father of all, the father point of all Indo-European languages. It could not be the point. It is, though, overall, like a good proxy point of what gave rise to Afanasseville and Tocharian, right? Those people are the ancestral forefathers of that Yama, but they're not the only people that exist that are, that were the main spreaders of the Indo-European languages. I want to talk about corded ware specifically, which I think corded ware is not really talked about, and I think what really caused this was jive, this focusing on Yamna and not really talking about the other main spreaders of the Indo-European languages, with the major one being corded ware. And this is where the I1 things really come into. But I'm not here to talk about I1. We're here to talk about Proto-Indo-Europeans. I will mention it though. I will mention it because I think I should be a bit more detailed on where I want to specifically be from, which I believe I have the answer to that. But either way, corded ware is the main spreader of pretty much most of the Indo-European languages that we have today, Specifically, they are the source of the Aryans. They are the source of Germanic, Celtic. Um, they're the source of Germanic, Celtic, and Balto-Slavic. Those people are the main Indo-European people, core aware. And where exactly would they be from? They'd be from a similar EHG source as Yam, 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 as Yamna, somewhere in Russia or in the Baltics. They would have been from a source similar to that, basically. And I think the issue with like a lot of it is that really this already started up as like proving a relation between the Indo-European languages as far as like 4500 BC, you know, where we can clearly see a relation between Sanskrit and the European language. You can clearly see a relation between those two things. You know, you can see a relation between the European languages and Sanskrit. So there must have been at some point some broad father figure, that father group that would have spread from, that have been ancestral to multiple different European languages and Indian languages or Asiatic languages, which is true. This is kind of proven through genetics, true more or less to the light of genetics and archaeology, and we kind of figured this out through digging up a bunch of skulls in Central Europe. We kind of said that the source of Indo-European would have been somewhere somewhere around Central Europe, and would have spread from there straight into India, which is kind of correct, but not so correct, because it fails to mention Yamna in this, because Yamna is the brown god of this discussion, and they really are like overhyped and mentioned as like this utmost figure of importance, because it really is just a place. They really just fit. They really are just the sovereign narrative, or the Near Eastern fit for the agenda that modern academia wants to always portray as everything being from the Near East or the Middle East or somewhere from Africa. It has nothing to do with the geographical landscape of Europe itself. It also has to be somewhere near that. Yeah, that's the point basically. That is and always has been the general point of like modern academia, really. And it's because it's a weird way to like live vicariously through these quote unquote Near Eastern populations, to saying that we gave civilizations to these people in Europe and it was not everywhere around. But even if that was the case, and if we were to even argue about this, the people here are far more closely related to those people than the ones in these current populations, and have done a lot more. But I'm not here to talk about stuff like that. I just think it's an important part. It's an important aspect to mention that that is a main point of why Indo-Europeans need to be from the Ponto-Caspian steppe and not somewhere in like deeper Central Europe, right? It needs to be from there because it would fit the narrative of like this more civilized people coming into Europe and changing over the landscape and changing the primitive people into more adapted and civilized people of Europe now. You know, so basically, your culture is from the Near East. But either way, with the light of genetics, we can make a lot more bold claims. Specifically, haplogroups are very important when it comes down to ancient populations, specifically to Indo-Europeans, because they're very pathological, and where the origins of these haplogroups are that make up Indo-Europeans are nowhere in they've been nowhere in the Near East at the time, and it would have been from they'd have been from, well, the Baltics to send from the Baltics around Central Europe, exactly where those hopper groups would have been from. Nowhere in Western Europe or the Near East. That's specifically where they've been from. And I can say there's proof for this because you have Northern hunter-gatherer with hopper group R1B, R1A, I2. Eventually, there will be Baltic hunter-gatherer with I1, more or less because I1 was bottlenecked amongst Western hunter-gatherers that are irritable, who kind of migrated into the Baltics after some time and would have been like there, and that's the population that would have bottlenecked amongst, and that's exactly where I think you would find I1 in the Baltics somewhere. But either way, this does not contradict my previous videos. It would just mean that the source of it is actually WHG, but like it would not really matter because it would be coming from a people who would have been coming along the lines of the Carpathian Mountains into Europe, corded ware basically. Coming into deeper Western Europe. Anyways, the step fixation is just looking at you're looking at the people who are related to each other and making the assumption that this is where all of this is from. It would be like me saying that modern African populations are the progenitors of Europeans. When in reality, they just share ancestry. Of the people that gave rise to Europeans. Doesn't mean that Igbo or Pygmy is the ancestor of modern day Europeans. No, they share ancestry with those people. They share common ancestry. They're related, but it's like you can't make that statement. That's it. You can't say like the common. That's because you share a common ancestor with these guys. That means that people who are contemporary to that place or that specific population is the progenitor of my people or whatever. It's like saying that Yamna being a common link between corded ware and between European and some unknown European population. This unknown European population to be corded ware at the time, but more or less because we weren't really aware of corded ware yet, I suppose. You would make the argument that that Yamna is the derivative or the deriver of corded ware. No, they share some loose ancestry. They share some common ancestry around some certain point. But it doesn't mean that they are the ancestral component for corded ware or Yamna. They're not ancestral to them. And the more you're looking into this, what actually all of this genetic stuff and all this recent paper stuff really implies is that, and how they really work is that it's coming to a conclusion based off of like a fitting puzzle, right? So you find a missing piece, you find the end point between X point, and then you make up a scenario for where the middle point would have been from, or who is the middle point between these two populations. So it's finding the end point and the start point of something, but not finding the middle. Because the middle is usually not the first thing to be found in any of these argumentative discussions. So when you see things like A&E, Yamnaya, Podcast Step, all these things, these are all not the actual ancestral fit components towards like these people, more or less like the end or the starting points of like a common ancestor that is in the middle. Keep it in mind. They're not as related as you think. They are related, but it's within the middle point has not been like really like extrapolated far enough yet. We have not done far enough research into the middle point, which is the actual origin point of both these populations. And at the end of the video, the middle points of both of these populations, where I think would have been from, it's quite clear to me that it's in the Baltics, specifically related to a Narvan population or a Voslovo population. These are all related people living in that area. This is where Kurdware would have been from. It would have been related to those people. This is where Yamna's ancestor would have been from too.